Greetings, I'm Pillar Next to the Ancient Gladiator with more Pillar Loves tabletop games. Today, I'll bring you the game Great Western Trail. This is the second edition of the game, and in this game you will play as a herder, moving along the trail, interacting with buildings, paying for hazards, and ultimately getting to Kansas City, where you'll try to have a hand of unique cattle to cash in for big money and place one of your markers out to open up more action spaces on your board and get some other effects based on where you end up. At the start of the game, you'll have your standard deck of cards for a given player. 5 of the Criollo, 3 of the Galloway, 3 of the Piney Woods, and 3 Santa Gertrudis. So that'll be mixed up. You will start out with a number of cards based on what order you're going in for the first round of the game. If you're going first, you get 4 cards and 6 money, but the further you are away from going first, the more cards you'll have to choose from. But then at the start of your first turn, you'll have to discard down to 4 cards. But it means you can actually decide what you'll have to work with, and you'll find uses for the cattle in your hand for building actions as well. So this kind of has a deck builder approach in terms of having a starter deck and then getting more cards into your deck. So, on your first turn of the game, you'll start out on one of these buildings and then do the action. Then everyone will have a herder on a building, and the game will proceed from there. You'll also have one of these random starting objectives. There's no penalty for failing to complete them, but they are worth points, so they are worth doing. It's also possible during the game to draw objective cards. Objective cards go into your deck, making it bigger. You are not required to commit to them, but if you choose to commit to them, they will permanently go in play in front of you, and if you don't complete them by the end of the game, you will lose points. Objectives will require you to have buildings to defeat hazards such as flooding, heat, landslides, and outlaws. You'll have to have stations, and you'll have to have certain cattle, or you'll have to hit the New York objective. So, on your turn, you get to move your move limit. So at the start of the game, players can move 4. Or their movement might be less if playing with 3 or 2 players. The only things you count while you are moving are actual pieces of cardboard on the trail. So from here is 1. Now, if these spaces were occupied by buildings, then it would be 1, 2, 3 to get here. And then you'll get to do the action. Then it shows, alternatively, for locations like hazards and other players' buildings, you can just do your standard actions of gain a money, draw a card and discard a card, pay money to move your train back and gain a certificate, which helps with money when you get your cattle to the end of the trail. Spend money to move your train forward, which is important for when you cash in your hand. Every little cross tie separating the value of your hand from the location of your train will cost you 1 money from what you've cashed in. And then there's spend 1 money and move your train back 1 space to permanently remove a card in your hand from the game. You want the lower to get rid of more of the lower value stuff, so you can always have more access to the higher values. So you'll move. You'll notice that there's black and green hands on various things. Even if you only move past them, you still have to pay for them. And it depends on how many players. So in a 4-player game, the black hand will cost you 2 money. The green hand will cost you 1 money. If it is a player's building with the black or green hand, you will have to pay the money to the player out of your own pocket. If it's a hazard, it'll go to the bank. If you're out of money, then oh well. But yeah, those are the basic actions you can do. Doing actual stuff in the game itself. The big action in the game is getting cattle. Depending on how many cowboys you have and how much money you have available, you can get cattle from the market. It's worth noting at the higher levels, sometimes cattle of the same value for money are different values for points, so pay attention to that. Alternatively, you can spend 1 cowboy or assign 1 cowboy to refresh the cattle market, depending on how many players there are. Another critical action is hiring. You can hire here, and their cost is here. So as people make it to Kansas City, there'll be a chance to add another hazard, add another worker, or add something from the mixed bag of workers and hazards. When the row fills up, they become available for hiring. And then there's the cost that can be paid here. With this one, there's hiring a person at cost and hiring a person at cost modified by 2, so they're even more expensive. Blue is your cowboys. They help with getting cattle. They can help with enough of them, you can have them get rid of a hazard or an outlaw. Purple are your builders. I will go over the build action here in a minute. With enough of them, you can get a discount on building, but you'll have to do it immediately. So make sure you have enough money for that. And then engineers are in brown, and they let you discard the gray cattle. Where'd it go? Where to put my hand? There it is. There you go. Most of the actions most of the hiring bonuses will be discarding them to get another certificate or more money. But the one at the 3rd position lets you hire someone at 2 cheaper, which is nice. And then if you can hire a lot of the same people, you get bonuses at the end. And then there's a building. So in order to build, you need... Okay, first off, at the start of the game, if people are just playing for the first time, buildings will be on their A side. But it's also possible to, experiment with the B side buildings as well. Everyone will have to play the same side for each number of building. So to build, in the upper left corner is how many builders it takes. So for building, you'll have to build 2 money for every builder that it takes to build the building from the ground up. And then it can go any open spot. And then it's also worth points to you at the end, in the upper right corner. Its actual function is at the bottom. It's possible to build a higher level of building by replacing a lower level of building if you have the difference in builders and the money to pay for them. So to replace this building with this one, I'm going to need 3 builders and 6 money. And for the 3 most expensive buildings on the A side, you have to build over your previous builds. Because 7, 9, and 12, you don't have access to that many builders at once. Put this back. So yeah, there's, and then just other actions are just like the potential double standard action, trading in cards for money, paying to get rid of hazards or removing outlaws, paying to move your train, moving your train 1 for every engineer you have. Oh yeah, there's another thing you can do, is when you get to a fork in the road and you have a chance to move, you can move into the station, at which point you can spend the money, move one of your appropriate discs to the space, and then give up one of your workers. So let's say I had her, again, moved in there. I can assign her to work this station, and I now permanently have this station master tile, which is a temporary, a one-shot or a permanent bonus for the over the course of the game. So this is a 2 certificates always. So I'll get 2 extra money every time I come to Kansas City. Some will also have bonuses at the end of the game. Like for this one, every set of green and orange outlaw is worth an extra 3 points. As long as you have the tile. Yeah. Be careful giving up workers that you know you're going to need. You're like, I know I need to build. I don't want to take that chance. But yeah. And then after you've done your actions from the tile or just the standard step, you'll draw your hand back up to 4. And you can increase your hand limit by removing these ones. So increasing your move, increasing your hand limit, and being able to max out your certificates requires getting to Chicago, Toledo, Philadelphia, New York, or these stations up here. So you really have to work to have those advantages in the first place. But yeah, they'll just keep going around. Players will move, do their stuff, get their hand back. Eventually, as people continue to hit Kansas City, the job market will reach the point where when this last row fills up, the player who makes it fill up takes the 2-point bonus at the end of the game. Each other player gets 1 last turn. And then final scoring is done. So Every 5 money you still have is a point. Um, the points values of your buildings are added up. The cities, the ones that get you points, like if Philadelphia or New York, or having adjacent ones that have the bonus in the middle, worth points. Having stations is worth points. Collecting hazard tiles by paying to remove them is worth points. Your upper level cattle are worth points. Now, you have one last chance to look through your personal deck and discards for any objective cards and decide, do I want to commit to this or not? If you choose not to commit to it, it's discarded. But if you've already played the card in front of you, then you are committed to it. And you'll get points for the ones you complete. So you'll notice that like some objectives will require similar things. Like both of these require green outlaws. Each objective needs its own set of stuff. You can't assign one thing to another one. So I would need 3 green outlaws to pull this off. For both of them. You've got points for the ones you complete and lose points for the ones you don't. Station master tiles that have bonuses are worth those points. Getting to 5 or 6 of a given type of person gets you points. Oops. At 4 points each. Having that token is worth points. And highest points total wins. It has been a while, so I'm not sure if there is a tiebreaker yet. Victory shared. And there's a lot of these games where like, where's the tiebreaker? Victory shared. Well, we've got the sport game league coming up, and it's like we need to have like one clear winner at the end. Then again, with all the different sources of points, ties are like very, very unlikely. I mean, they're possible. It's just they're the exception, not the norm. But yeah, that's Great Western Trail. Why do I like this game? Because cowboys are awesome. I just like that setting and history and everything. It's as long as you remember the movement thing, having to pay for hands, and everything else that needs to be kept in mind. It's not too hard of a game. It is a challenge. It's kind of a long game too, but I think it's a great game. Great Western Trail, check it out. They've got they're also doing Great Western Trail Argentina and New Zealand. So at least check one of those out when you can. This has been Pillar Nexus, the Gladiator. Thank you very much for watching. See you next video.